So I see a lot of errors in thinking, right? And again, I point out that if you corrected your errors in thinking, you wouldn't agree with me politically and otherwise in the final opinions that you have. It's just that your thinking would be more clear. Maybe you'd make less mistakes. Maybe you wouldn't misunderstand your own ideas so badly as you tend to. Oh, I'm sorry, not you, but just most people, 99.9% of them. So this isn't a complete list. This is just I just was thinking of making this video, so I made a little list. I came up with a couple that that I think of often. One I call the error of being. You guys believe that you're beings, that you live in a static universe. Yeah, it's changing, so it's not entirely static, but it's basically a static state that's being changed. You're not a being. You're becoming. It's a huge difference. The verb to be, the verb is. It's not a matter of what the universe is. It's a matter of what's going on in the universe, which is a question of what is the universe becoming. And it's becoming something we don't know what it is exactly going to be, but it's becoming. Another way to put this is a line is not made of an infinite number of points. It's made of an infinite number of infinitesimal intervals, right? There is no such thing as a point in time. There are always intervals. There is no such thing as a point in time. There are always intervals. They can be tiny little intervals, or you can use big intervals if you want. But a section of time is made of little sections of time, not points. And this confuses you a lot. A lot. And I'm sure hardly anybody will understand what I'm even talking about, how that's even an issue or a thing. But it's a major thing causing you to think poorly. Okay, another error that's super common, a big political problem, is the error of compelling others. Always everybody wants to know how to compel others. So the idea is like, if somebody wants to stab me, how can I compel him to believe that I am correct, that it is wrong to stab me? No. Morality is the clearest case. When it comes to morality, here's how it works. Okay? There's many moral systems that you can try to use. I've got mine, people have theirs. There's many different moral systems. But one thing they have in common is that they are for a person that says, hey, I want to be moral. It's not easy to do the right thing. I want to do the right thing. I'm going to make a system that helps me figure out the right thing. That's what a morality is. It's not about, hey, I figured out what the right thing is. It'll force another person to be right. No, it's for you to help you figure out what's right. If somebody else violates that, then you're faced with a moral question of what do I do when somebody violates my morals? It's still a question for you. Morality is always a question for you, and it's true in many other things where it's more subtle. The truth in epistemology. How do you figure out what the truth is? Everybody's looking for some method that you can figure out what the truth is that forces other people to face the truth. Well, there are things that are undeniable, but they're not literally emotionally undeniable. They actually can be denied. So undeniable technically is in question a philosophical issue. The truth will keep knocking, unlike opportunity. You will have to ignore it at a certain point to not face it, right? But that will never compel other people. People compel themselves. If people want to know the truth, then they have to find the system that yields the truth to them. If people want to be moral, they have to find the system that helps them be moral. You can't force it on other people, force it on yourself. You're the one that needs to become moral. You're the one seeking a moral system. And they're not all equal. You need to find the system that makes you moral or truthful if you even really want to be. Because a lot of people looking for a system to compel others are not trying to compel themselves. They're not saying, how can I be a better person? It's difficult when the push comes to shove in the tiny situation of a moment. Oh, sometimes I do things that later on I think of as the wrong thing. How can I avoid that? They're not asking that. And that's the only moral question. That's the questions of truth and every question it's how can you be that thing? How can you make yourself better? And ironically, if everybody that said they had this moral compulsion was trying to make themselves more moral, the fucking world would actually become more moral as a result. So obviously that's not what they're doing. And then the last error for right now is this error of your foundation. People don't understand, they don't want to understand, but they go backwards. They start from here's how things are and let's explain the world. That's just a puzzle. That's just trying to use power visualization and an illusion. The fact is we start at the data. It's the data is the foundation. There is no other foundation. Any of your other ideas can't be the foundation. They come from somewhere. Where do they come from? The data. Now, granted, that doesn't make them correct because you've misinterpreted the data. You've cherry picked the data. You've pointed the finger. You've wondered how come everybody else hasn't got it figured out when you yourself don't have it figured out. The data is the foundation. But you think the philosophy you were brought up with is the foundation. That's impossible. You can know prima facie the the ideological system that you were brought up with cannot be the foundation. The foundation has to be the data. If you think the ideological system that you luckily were brought up with happens to be the correct one, you would still have to draw that and justify that and demonstrate that from the data, right? And by the way, it's the data that proves that we have willpower. It's the data that proves that if you don't exercise your willpower, that you're making a grave mistake. The actual primary data. That's what it, and people want to ignore that. The primary data is an illusion. My ideology, however, is a priori proven. I don't have to use my primary data. My what I believe doesn't have to appear to be the case. Appearing to be the case. What a joke to appear to be the case. I have something that doesn't appear to be the case. That's much better. Way better. And it doesn't have to be drawn from the data because a priori. And I'm supposed to make more entertaining videos to convince you of this. No, I'm not. I I've done the work of convincing myself of it because it's obviously true. And you are on your own. You're lucky to even hear somebody mentioning they figured it out. I think you know what I'm talking about.